The alarm bells rang through the underground bunker as General Marcus Kane stared at the red lights flashing across the wall screen. Another human world had fallen to the aliens. That made 12 systems lost in just 2 months. The Virex were winning, and everyone knew it. Kane rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the reports on his desk. Bad news. All of it. The enemy ships were too fast, too smart, and too many. Every time human forces tried to fight them, the aliens learned from the battle and came back stronger. It was like fighting an enemy that could read their minds. A young officer knocked on the door and entered without waiting. "General, the council is ready for your briefing." Kane nodded and grabbed his files. He walked through the long corridors carved deep into the rock of New Gibraltar. This fortress world was one of the last safe places humans had left. If it fell, Earth would be next. The council chamber was full of worried faces. Politicians, admirals, and scientists all looked at Kane as he entered. They needed hope, but he had little to give them. "Gentlemen, ladies," Kane began, "our situation is critical. The Vrex have taken 12 systems in 2 months. Their bioships adapt to our weapons faster than we can develop new ones. At this rate, they will reach Earth in 6 months. An old admiral leaned forward. "What about the new battleships? The ones with the plasma cannons?" Kane shook his head. "Destroyed. All of them. The Vrex studied our plasma weapons for exactly 3 battles, then developed shields that made them useless." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the truth now. Conventional warfare had failed. The aliens were simply too advanced. "However," Kane continued, "our intelligence teams have made a discovery. The Virex coordinate their entire war effort from a single location, a massive space station they call the Mind Forge." He pressed a button and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. The alien station looked like a twisted combination of metal and living tissue. It was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. This station controls all Vrex military operations across dozens of star systems. If we can destroy it, their coordination will collapse. Their fleets will be blind and confused. A woman in a gray suit frowned. "How do we reach it?" "The station is in the heart of Vrex space, surrounded by hundreds of their ships." Kane smiled grimly. "We don't send a fleet. We send one ship, one very special ship." Another hologram appeared. This one showed a sleek black vessel unlike anything in the human fleet. It was smaller than a destroyer but packed with technology that made it look dangerous. "The Nightfall," Kane explained. "Our prototype stealth ship. It uses experimental quantum drive technology that makes it invisible to most sensors. One ship can slip through their defenses where a fleet cannot." "And the crew?" asked the admiral. 5 people, hand-picked specialists, each one an expert in their field. They will infiltrate the Mind Forge, plant explosives, and destroy it from the inside." The room erupted in worried voices. Someone called it suicide. Another said it was impossible. Kane let them talk for a moment, then raised his hand for silence. "I know the risks, but this is our only chance. We have run out of time and options." 3 hours later, Kane stood in a different room. This one was smaller and more secure. 5 people sat around a table, looking at him with serious faces. These were the chosen ones, the best humanity had to offer. Jake Morrison was 32 years old and had served in the Marines before becoming a ship engineer. He was tall and strong, with hands that could fix anything. Jake had a reputation for making impossible repairs under pressure. Lisa Park was the youngest at 28. She was a xenobiologist who had spent years studying captured Vrex technology. Her small frame hid a brilliant mind that understood alien biology better than anyone. Ryan Tucker was 35 and looked like he could break a man in half. The demolitions expert had been blowing things up for the military for 15 years. If something needed to be destroyed, Ryan was the man to call. Amy Brooks was 31 and had been flying ships since she was 16. The tactical specialist could pilot anything with engines and had never lost a dogfight. Her blue eyes were always alert, always calculating. Sam Carter was 29 and looked more like a college student than a soldier. The communications officer was a genius with computers and electronics. He could hack into systems that others said were impossible to crack. Kane looked at each of them in turn. You know why you are here. The mission is simple in concept, but nearly impossible to execute. Questions? Jake spoke first. General, how stable is this quantum drive? I have read the technical reports. The technology is still experimental. The drive has been tested successfully in 7 trials, Kane replied. But you are right to be concerned. You will be pushing it harder and farther than ever before. Lisa raised her hand. What about the station itself? Do we know anything about its internal structure? Kane activated a screen on the wall. Limited intelligence. We know it has a central power core and multiple command centers. Beyond that, you will be working blind. Amy leaned forward. Escape routes? The same way you came in. The Nightfall will wait for you at a predetermined location. You will have exactly 4 hours to complete the mission before the ship leaves with or without you. The room was quiet as everyone absorbed this information. Sam finally spoke. General, why us? Why not send a larger team? Kane was quiet for a long moment. Because large teams get caught. Because you 5 have skills no one else has. And because if this fails, there may not be another chance. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. The Vreks have conquered half the galaxy. They have technology we barely understand, but they have never faced anything like humanity before. We do not give up. We find a way when there is no way. Kane turned back to the team. You have 24 hours to prepare. Study the intelligence files, check your equipment, say goodbye to anyone you need to say goodbye to. The 5 team members stood and began to file out. Kane stopped Jake at the door. Commander Morrison, you are the senior officer on this mission. The others will look to you for leadership. Jake nodded. I understand, sir. We will complete the mission. I know you will try. That is all anyone can ask. As the door closed behind them, Kane returned to the window. Somewhere out there in the darkness, the Vrex fleets were moving toward Earth. In 24 hours, 5 humans would climb into an experimental ship and attempt the impossible. It was a desperate gambit. A last roll of the dice when all other options had failed. But as Kane watched the stars, he felt something he had not felt in months. Hope. Because sometimes when everything seems lost, ordinary people do extraordinary things. The Nightfall was humanity's answer to impossible odds. Not bigger guns or better armor, but human courage and determination. 5 people willing to risk everything to save everyone else. Kane smiled grimly and went back to his desk. He had preparations to make. In 24 hours, the real war would begin. The Nightfall moved through space like a ghost. Its black hull absorbed light instead of reflecting it, making the ship almost invisible against the starfield. Inside the cramped bridge, the 5 crew members worked in tense silence. They had been traveling for 3 days and were now deep in enemy territory. Jake Morrison sat at the engineering station, watching the quantum drive readings with worried eyes. The experimental technology was holding steady, but the numbers were not what he wanted to see. The drive was working harder than it should be, consuming more power than the tests had predicted. Amy, how are we doing on the nav front? Jake asked, quietly. Amy Brooks looked up from her pilot controls. We are following the planned route, but I am seeing some strange readings on the long-range sensors. The Vreks have placed something out there. Lisa Park moved to Amy's station and studied the sensor data. These are not ships. The energy signatures are wrong. They look like some kind of detection grid. Sam Carter stopped typing on his communications console. I am picking up scanning signals. The aliens have set up sensor nets throughout this region. They are looking for something. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Looking for us? Maybe, Sam replied. Or maybe they do this to all their territory. Either way, we need to be careful. Ryan Tucker looked up from cleaning his weapons. Can we go around them? Amy shook her head. Not without adding 2 weeks to our journey, and we do not have the fuel for that kind of detour. Jake stood and walked to the main display. The sensor net stretched across their path like a spider web. Going through it meant risking detection. Going around it meant running out of fuel before they reached the target. "Lisa, what do you know about Vrex sensor technology?" Jake asked. Lisa pulled up files on her tablet. "I have studied their captured equipment. Their sensors work differently than ours. They detect quantum signatures and bioelectric fields. The quantum drive makes us invisible to most scanners, but these nets might be designed specifically to find ships like ours." "So what do we do?" Ryan asked. Jake studied the display for several minutes. The sensor net had gaps, but they were small and constantly shifting. Getting through would require perfect timing and a lot of luck. "We go through," Jake decided. "But we do it smart. Sam, can you analyze their scanning patterns?" Sam nodded and began working on his console. "Give me an hour. I think I can find a pattern in their sensor sweeps." While Sam worked, Jake checked the ship's systems. The quantum drive was stable but running hot. The stealth systems were working perfectly, but they used a lot of power. If they had to run at full stealth for too long, they might drain the batteries. Before reaching their target, Amy practiced flying the ship through narrow spaces using the simulator. The gaps in the sensor net were barely wide enough for the Nightfall to fit through. One wrong move would trigger the alarms and bring every Vrex ship in the area down on them. Lisa continued studying Vrex biology and technology. She had brought along samples of alien tissue and equipment, trying to understand how their enemies thought and fought. The more she learned, the more worried she became. "Jake, you need to see this," Lisa called out. Jake moved to her station. Lisa had a piece of Vrex biotechnology connected to her analysis equipment. The alien device was pulsing with a soft blue light. "This is a Vrex communication node," Lisa explained. "I took it from a captured ship. It is still active, still connected to their network somehow." "That could be useful," Jake said. "Can you intercept their communications?" "That is the problem. I have been listening to their signals. They are not just talking about military operations. They are discussing something called the Great Birthing." Jake frowned. "What is that?" Lisa looked scared. "I think the Mind Forge is not just a command center. The Vrex are using it to create something. New types of warriors, designed specifically to fight humans." Before Jake could respond, Sam called out from his station. "I found it. I found the pattern in their sensor sweeps." Everyone gathered around Sam's console. The screen showed the sensor net with colored lines indicating the scanning patterns. The lines moved in complex cycles, but Sam had found the rhythm. Every 17 minutes, there is a gap that lasts for 43 seconds. It is not much, but it is enough for us to slip through if we time it perfectly. Amy studied the flight path. "I can do it, but we will have to shut down everything except life support and engines. No shields, no weapons, no communications." Jake nodded. "Do it. We wait for the next gap and go through." The next 17 minutes felt like hours. The crew prepared for the dangerous passage while watching the sensor readings. The Vrex scanning beams swept back and forth, searching for any sign of intruders. 30 seconds, Sam announced. Amy's hands moved over the controls, bringing the ship to the exact position they needed. The Nightfall would have to fly through a space barely wider than the ship itself, with alien sensors on all sides. 10 seconds. Jake held his breath. Everything depended on the next few moments. Now. Amy pushed the engines to full power, and the Nightfall shot forward. The ship slipped through the gap in the sensor net like a needle through fabric. Alien scanning beams passed just meters away from their hull. 20 seconds left, Sam counted down. The ship was halfway through when alarms began ringing. One of the Vrex sensors had detected something. "They know we are here," Lisa said, watching the alien communications traffic spike. "Not yet," Amy replied through gritted teeth. "They know something is wrong, but they do not know what." The Nightfall cleared the sensor net with 3 seconds to spare. Amy immediately cut the engines and let the ship drift, using its momentum to carry them away from the detection grid. "We made it," Ryan said, letting out a breath he had been holding. But their relief was short-lived. Sam's communications equipment picked up new signals. Vrex ships were moving toward their position. 3 vessels incoming, Sam reported. They will be here in 20 minutes. Jake looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were moving in a search pattern, checking every possible hiding spot. Running would reveal their position, but staying put meant being found eventually. "Ryan, what do you have in your bag of tricks?" Jake asked. Ryan smiled grimly and opened one of his equipment cases. "I have been saving these for a special occasion." He pulled out 3 small devices that looked like metal spheres. Proximity mines. They are designed to look like space debris on sensors. "Will they work against wreck ships?" Amy asked. "Only one way to find out," Ryan replied. Jake made the decision. "Do it. Plant them along their search route. Maybe we can create enough confusion to slip away." Ryan suited up and went outside the ship in a spacesuit. He carefully placed the mines along the path the wreck ships would take, making them look like random pieces of debris from old battles. The alien ships arrived exactly on schedule. Their biomechanical hulls gleamed in the starlight as they swept the area with powerful sensors. The lead ship moved directly toward the first mine. The explosion lit up space like a small star. The wreck's ship staggered, its hull cracked and bleeding atmosphere. The other 2 ships moved to help their damaged companion, exactly as Ryan had hoped. While the aliens were distracted, Amy quietly moved the Nightfall away from the area. The ship's stealth systems kept them invisible as they slipped past the confused enemy vessels. 2 hours later, they were far from the sensor net and the damaged wreck ships. The crew finally allowed themselves to relax. "That was too close," Lisa said. Jake nodded. "And it is going to get worse. We are still 3 days from the target, and the wrecks will be looking for us now." Sam checked his communications equipment. "I am intercepting a lot of traffic. They know someone is in their territory." "Let them look," Jake said. "We have a job to finish." But as the Nightfall continued deeper into enemy space, Jake could not shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. The wrecks were too smart to leave their most important facility unguarded. Whatever was waiting for them at the Mind Forge, it would be ready. The Mind Forge appeared on their screens like a nightmare made real. The massive station stretched across space, bigger than any human city. Its surface was a twisted mix of metal and what looked like living tissue. Veins of pulsing light ran across its hull like blood vessels. Hundreds of wreck ships moved around it in perfect patterns, protecting their most precious facility. Jake Morrison stared at the tactical display in shock. Intelligence said it was big, but this is impossible. How do we even get close to that thing? Amy Brooks was studying the defensive formations. Those ships are not just patrolling, they are flying in mathematical patterns. Perfect circles, spirals, geometric shapes. It is like watching a dance. Lisa Park looked pale as she analyzed the energy readings from the station. The biosignatures are off the charts. This thing is not just alive, it is massive. The station itself is some kind of creature. Sam Carter was intercepting alien communications. The traffic is incredible, thousands of signals going back and forth. But there is something strange about the patterns. Ryan Tucker cleaned his weapons nervously. Strange how? The signals repeat in cycles. Every 6 minutes and 42 seconds, the communication patterns start over, like clockwork. Jake felt a spark of hope. That could be our way in. Amy, are you seeing any gaps in their patrol routes? Amy enhanced the display and watched the alien ships for several minutes. There is a debris field on the far side of the station. Old battle wreckage. The patrol ships avoid it, probably because their sensors cannot see through all the metal. Lisa nodded. That makes sense. Wrecks rely heavily on their biosensors. Large amounts of dead metal confuse them. Jake made the decision. We go through the debris field. Use it as cover to get close to the station. The Nightfall moved carefully through the wreckage of ancient battles. Twisted metal hulks drifted in the vacuum. Some human, some alien, all destroyed long ago. Amy piloted the ship between the larger pieces, using them to hide from the patrolling vessels. Contact, Sam whispered. Vrex patrol ship, 2,000 meters. Everyone held their breath as an alien vessel glided past their hiding spot. The biomechanical ship looked like a giant insect, all curves and organic shapes. It passed within 50 meters of the Nightfall without detecting them. Clear, Sam reported. They continued through the debris field until they reached the edge closest to the mind forge. From here they could see the station's surface in detail. It was covered with structures that looked like buildings, but they moved and shifted like living things. There, Lisa pointed to a section of the station's hull. That area shows different energy patterns. It might be a maintenance section. Amy studied the approach route. I can get us there, but we will be exposed for 30 seconds. If they scan us during that time, we are dead. Jake looked at his team. Everyone ready? They nodded. Each person had their equipment ready. Ryan carried enough explosives to level a city block. Lisa had her analysis tools and biological samples. Sam had his hacking equipment. Amy had her sidearm and piloting gear. Jake carried the detonators and backup equipment. Go, Jake ordered. The Nightfall shot out of the debris field and raced toward the mind forge. 30 seconds felt like an eternity. The station's hull grew larger and larger until it filled their view completely. Amy found the maintenance port Lisa had identified and docked the ship with expert precision. We are in, but I cannot guarantee this port will stay undetected for long. The team suited up and entered the alien station through the maintenance airlock. The interior was like nothing they had ever seen. The walls were not metal, but some kind of organic material that felt warm to the touch. Veins of blue light pulsed through the surfaces like blood vessels. Stay together, Jake ordered. We split into 2 teams as planned. Ryan and I go for the power core. Lisa, Amy, and Sam head for the command center. But as they moved deeper into the station, Lisa made a discovery that changed everything. She stopped at a junction and pulled out her scanner. Jake, you need to see this, she called quietly. The scanner showed biological readings unlike anything they had expected. The station was not just alive, it was full of life. Thousands of creatures moving through the corridors and chambers. What are we looking at? Jake asked. Lisa's voice was shaking. These are not soldiers. The smaller readings, they are juveniles, children. This station is not just a military base, it is a nursery. Ryan looked at his explosives. You mean if we blow this place up, we kill kids? Thousands of them, Lisa confirmed. The team stood in the pulsing corridor, facing a choice they had never expected. Their mission was to destroy the mind forge, but doing so would mean killing innocent children. We stick to the mission, Jake said finally. The war has to end. But Lisa grabbed his arm. Wait, let me scan the command center first. Maybe there is another way. They moved through the organic corridors toward the center of the station. The walls around them pulsed with life, and they could hear sounds that might have been breathing or heartbeats. The place felt alive in a way that made their skin crawl. Sam found a data port and connected his equipment. I am in their system. The amount of information here is incredible. While Sam worked, Lisa continued her scans. What she found made her face go white. Jake, this station is not just coordinating the war. It is growing new types of Rex warriors. But it is also preserving their entire species. If we destroy this place, we might wipe out their entire race. Amy kept watch while the others worked. We have movement. Vrex security forces are heading this way. Sam's equipment beeped. I found something. The station's military functions are separate from the civilian areas. They are in different sections. Ryan looked at his explosives again. I could modify the charges, target just the military sections, but it would be more complicated and more dangerous. Jake felt the weight of command. The mission was to destroy the mind forge and end the war, but they had discovered that the station was more than a military target. It was a living world with innocent lives. How long do we have? Jake asked Amy. Maybe 10 minutes before they find us. Jake looked at each member of his team. We came here to end a war, not to commit genocide. Ryan, can you modify the charges to spare the civilian sections? Ryan nodded grimly. It will be tight, but I can do it. Then we do it right. Sam, plant your virus in the military systems only. Lisa, help guide any civilians you can find to safe areas. Amy, watch our backs. The team split up with new purpose. Instead of simply destroying the station, they would try to cripple its military capabilities while preserving the lives of the innocent. Ryan worked frantically to reprogram his explosives while Jake helped carry the charges to new positions. The bombs had to be placed precisely to damage only the military sections. Sam planted his computer virus in the communication systems, but he programmed it to target only military networks. The virus would spread chaos through the Vrex fleet. Coordination without harming civilian systems. Lisa used her knowledge of Vrex biology to help guide non-combatants toward safer areas of the station. She could not save them all, but she could try to minimize the casualties. Amy fought a running battle with Vrex security forces, buying time for the others to complete their work. Her accurate shooting kept the aliens at bay, but more were coming. 5 minutes, Amy called out. We need to go now. Jake looked at the modified charges. They were set to destroy the military command centers and coordination systems while leaving the civilian areas intact. It was not perfect, but it was better than wholesale slaughter. Everyone back to the ship, Jake ordered. They ran through the pulsing corridors as alarms began to sound throughout the station. The Vrex had finally realized they were under attack. The team ran through the twisting corridors of the Mind Forge as the station came alive with danger. Behind them, Vrex security forces gave chase. The organic walls pulsed faster now, as if the station itself was afraid. Blue warning lights flashed through the veins that ran along the ceiling. Amy Brooks fired her weapon at the pursuing aliens while running backward. Her shots were precise, hitting the biomechanical warriors in their weak spots. But more kept coming. How much time do we have? Jake Morrison shouted over the noise of alarms. Ryan Tucker checked his detonator. 3 minutes until the charges blow. We need to be off this station by then. They reached a junction where the corridor split in 3 directions. Lisa Park quickly checked her scanner and pointed left. That way leads back to our ship. But as they turned the corner, they found their path blocked. A massive Vrex warrior stood in the corridor ahead. This one was different from the others. Bigger, stronger, with armor that seemed to grow from its own body. It was one of the new warrior types the station had been creating. The creature roared and charged toward them. Amy's bullets bounced off its thick armor. Ryan threw a small explosive, but the alien was too fast. It dodged the blast and kept coming. Jake pushed Lisa behind him and drew his sidearm. Go around, find another path. But there was no other path. The corridor was too narrow to go around the creature, and the walls were too thick to blast through. They were trapped. The Vrex warrior raised a weapon that looked like a living cannon. Energy began to build up in its barrel, ready to fire a shot that would kill them all. Then Lisa stepped forward. She pulled out one of her biological samples and threw it at the creature. The sample hit the alien and began to react with its armor. The biomechanical surface started to bubble and smoke. The warrior stumbled, confused by what was happening to its body. Lisa had found a weakness in the new armor design. The sample contained enzymes that broke down Vrex biotechnology. Run, Lisa shouted. They squeezed past the confused creature and kept running toward their ship. Behind them, more alarms began to sound as the station's defenses fully activated. Sam Carter was monitoring communications on his portable device. The whole station is going crazy. They know we planted something, but they do not know what. They reached the maintenance port where the Nightfall was docked. Amy immediately began the startup sequence while the others sealed the airlock behind them. 90 seconds, Ryan announced, watching the countdown on his detonator. Jake strapped himself into his seat as Amy fired the engines. The ship pulled away from the Mind Forge just as Vrex patrol vessels began converging on their position. They see us, Sam reported. Multiple ships incoming. Amy pushed the engines to maximum power, but the alien ships were faster. Energy blasts began to light up space around the Nightfall as the Vrex opened fire. 60 seconds, Ryan called out. One of the energy blasts hit their rear shields. The ship shook violently, and several systems went offline. Jake ran to the engineering station and began emergency repairs. Shields are down to 30%, Jake reported. If they hit us again, we are finished. Amy threw the ship into a wild series of turns, dodging between the larger pieces of debris. The Vrex ships followed, their organic hulls flexing and bending as they maneuvered through the wreckage. 30 seconds, Ryan announced. That was when the first explosion hit the Mind Forge. A section of the station's military command center erupted in flames. The blast was so bright it lit up the entire debris field. The Vrek ships immediately turned away from chasing the nightfall and raced back toward their damaged station. Their priority was saving the Mind Forge, not catching 5 humans. 20 seconds. Ryan continued counting. More explosions rocked the station. Ryan's carefully placed charges detonated in sequence, destroying military facilities while leaving civilian areas untouched. The coordination centers went up in flames. The weapon manufacturing plants exploded. The communication hubs turned into twisted wreckage. But the civilian sections remained intact. Lisa's biological scans had been accurate. The modified plan was working. 10 seconds, Ryan said. The final explosion was the biggest. Sam's virus had found the main military computer core at the same moment Ryan's largest charge detonated. The combination created a massive blast that could be seen from across the star system. 0, Ryan said quietly. The Mind Forge was crippled but not destroyed. Huge sections of the station were gone, but the parts that housed innocent lives still pulsed with blue light. They had done it. They had completed their mission without becoming mass murderers. Amy set course for home while Jake checked their systems. The ship was damaged but still functional. They would make it back to Federation space. Sam was monitoring Vrek's communications. It worked. Their fleet coordination is collapsing. Ships are losing contact with their commanders. The virus is spreading through their entire network. Lisa was reviewing the biological data they had collected. Jake, you need to see this. The information I gathered about their biology, their technology, their culture, this could change everything. Jake looked at the data files. They contained detailed information about 11 other Mind Forge stations scattered across Vrek space. More importantly, they contained evidence that not all Vrek supported the war. There were factions within their society that wanted peace. We did not just damage their military, Jake realized. We gave humanity the intelligence it needs to win this war properly. The journey home took 4 days. The nightfall limped through space, its damaged systems barely holding together. But they made it. When Federation sensors finally detected them, Jake felt relief wash over him. General Kane was waiting at the docking bay when they arrived. His face showed a mixture of hope and concern as the 5 crew members emerged from their battered ship. Report, Kane said simply. Jake handed him a data pad containing everything they had learned. Mission accomplished, sir. The Mind Forge is crippled. Their fleet coordination is down. But there is more. Kane read the report in silence. His eyes widened as he saw the intelligence about the other stations and the Vrek's peace factions. This changes everything, Kane said finally. With this information, we can target their military capabilities without destroying their entire civilization. Lisa stepped forward. General, the Vreks are not evil. They are afraid. Their leaders told them humans wanted to destroy all alien life. When they learn the truth, many of them will stop fighting. Kane nodded. We will use this intelligence wisely. No more total war. We will target their military leaders while reaching out to those who want peace. The 5 crew members were taken to medical for checkups and then to debriefing rooms. But before they separated, Jake gathered them together one last time. We did something important out there, he said. We proved that humans can be better than their enemies expect. We could have destroyed that station and everyone on it. Instead, we found another way. Ryan smiled. We saved the war criminals and the innocents. We ended a war without losing our souls, Amy added. Sam looked at his friends. Think they will. Remember us? Lisa laughed. Does it matter? We know what we did. Jake nodded. We showed them that humanity fights differently. We do not destroy everything in our path. We find solutions that others cannot see. As they walked away to their separate debriefings, none of them knew that their actions had already changed the course of galactic history. The intelligence they brought back would lead to contact with Vrek's peace factions within weeks. The war would end not with the destruction of an entire species, but with a treaty between former enemies. General Kane watched them go and smiled. He had sent 5 humans and 1 lethal ship on an impossible mission, They had returned with something more valuable than military victory. They had brought back hope for a better future. The Nightfall sat in its docking bay, scarred but intact. Like its crew, the ship had proven that sometimes the most lethal weapon is not the one that destroys everything, but the one that finds a way to win without losing what makes victory worthwhile. Humanity had faced its greatest test and proven worthy of the stars.